Hey everybody, Miss Hadia here. Thanks so much for joining me for another week of science experiments from home. I'm pretty excited about today's experiment because today we're going to be doing our first STEM building challenge from home. That's right, a building challenge. We all know how much I love them. And what we're going to be making is a parachute. That's right. Now you all know what a parachute is. Some of you have probably even played with one at school. But if not, you've at least seen one in a book or a movie, enough to know what it does and how it works, right? So a parachute's job is to slow down an object as it moves through the air towards the ground. A person jumping from a plane, for example, would need a parachute to slow them down as they moved towards the ground so that they could land safely. That's the job of a parachute, to slow an object down as it moves through the air towards the ground. So before we talk about what you're going to need to make your own parachute, let's talk about the different parts of one and how they work so that you can choose your materials with a little bit of background knowledge. Okay, so you can see from my drawing, a parachute is really a pretty simple design. It does not have many pieces to it, right? It has this first really colorful piece called the canopy, which has kind of a curved top and a flat bottom. I think it looks a little bit like maybe a mushroom or a jellyfish, but it's called the canopy, and it is the most important part of the parachute. It is the part responsible for catching the air. And we'll talk about that a little bit more in 1 minute, okay? But that's the canopy, the most important part of the parachute. And then you need a way to attach the parachute to the object that it's slowing down. In this picture, it's a person, okay? It's a person that the parachute is slowing down. And it's attached to the person with these 4 straight lines. Those are called the cords. So a canopy is attached to the object by cords. So there's 2 pieces, the canopy, the cords, and then some parachutes are attached directly to the object, or maybe when you design your parachute, yours will look something more like this, where you have the canopy, the cords, and then they're attached to some kind of container that the person or the object sits in, okay? But you're really going to need only 3 pieces for your parachute: a canopy, cords, and either an object or some kind of container that you want to place your object in. That's it, 3 pieces. Now, how does this work? So, if you had a person like my knight here, and he wanted to jump from an airplane, all right, we know that when we drop things or when things fall off a table or something jumps from an airplane, everything moves towards the ground. And that is because of gravity. Gravity pulls everything to the ground. So if he's up here, you can't even see him, he's up so high, right? He's way up here, and he jumps out of my pretend airplane, and gravity pulls him to the ground, and it pulls him quickly, right? He goes down. Now there's something else happening here that you can't see. But in addition to gravity pulling him down, air is also pushing him up. So as he moves through the air is pushing against him, pushing in the opposite direction of gravity. It's pushing up. But there's so little area, he's such a small guy, that there's not much space for the air to push against. And so it doesn't have enough force compared to the gravity, and he goes down quickly. That is the job of the parachute. So this time, if I gave my knight a parachute that I made, so this one, I decided the canopy would be made just out of yellow construction paper. My cords are red strings, and I attach it to the knight. This time, if you were to jump from the plane, the gravity would still pull him down, but this time the air would push up on him, but not just him this time. This time the air would also be able to push on the whole area of my parachute, and it would provide resistance. It's called air resistance. It means that the air would be pushing up while the gravity was pulling down, and all that does is it slows the knight down as he moves towards the ground. Okay, so gravity pulls down, but the parachute provides air resistance, or drag it's called, and that slows him down as it moves towards the ground. So again, all the parachute does is it traps the air so that the air can push up and slow him down as gravity pulls him towards the ground. Okay? So there you go. That's a very fast description of how a parachute works and its different parts. So now what are you going to need to make your own? So the first thing you're probably going to need is you're probably going to need to use some scissors at some point. So make sure that you talk to a grown-up before you use scissors. They might even want to help you with this part, okay? And then I also needed tape when I made my parachute. So I needed scissors and tape. And then you need to decide what you're going to use for all the different pieces. So you need to decide what you're going to use for the canopy and the cords. And you need to decide if you're going to tie it right onto your object, like I could tie it right onto my knight, or if you were going to give your object some kind of basket to sit in. So maybe I wanted to make a parachute out of this cup. So the parachute could be attached to the cup and he could sit inside instead. Okay, so you're going to need scissors, tape, and then all your materials for the different parts of the parachute. So for your canopy, you could use a bunch of different things. You could use a piece of construction paper. You could use maybe something like a paper towel. You could use a piece of cloth. I can show you some of the other ones we made at my house. So for this one, we used a huge garbage bag. And then for another one, we used a small bag because we wanted to see if the size made a difference for the parachute. If a big one worked better than a small one, or maybe the small one worked better. We wanted to test it out. So we used 2 different size plastic bags, or this one we used a piece of felt because we thought, well, maybe if it was a more rigid surface, that would be a better parachute. We didn't know, okay? So you're going to choose what's your canopy, and then you're going to attach your cords to it. Now for all of ours, we use string. So here's what we did. We cut 4 pieces of string, and it helps if the string is the same size. So maybe what you could do is with a grown-up watching, you could cut your first piece of string, and then you could line them up right next to each other and make sure they lined up so that they were the same size, and then you cut another piece of string, okay? And then we used 4 pieces of string because for all of ours, we attached our cords to each edge of our canopy, all right? You don't have to do it that way. That's how I designed mine. You do yours your way, okay? So we use string for our cords. Maybe you want to do the same, or maybe you want to use something like popsicle sticks, or you could use something like pipe cleaners, or you could use wire, or I have seen sometimes when people just attach the canopy right to their container. They don't even use a cord. Maybe you want to give that a try. And then the last decision you have to make is if you're going to tie it right onto your object, or if you want to give it some kind of container to sit in. So I'll show you ours again. So for this first one, we designed like a little basket. It's made out of fabric, so it's very, very light. It's very light. And then for another one of ours, for the little plastic bag, we used a blue plastic cup. And you can see ours is stuffed with fabric because we decided we would drop an egg in our parachute and see if it survived. And then for our final one, we used a vitamin container, or you could use a cup, anything you want. We decided we were going to use all recycled objects like last week, but anything you want, okay? So you're going to need some tape and some scissors, and then find some supplies to make your own parachute. That is your challenge, to design a parachute. That's the challenge for the kids. Parents, the challenge for you is to let them design their own parachute. I know personally how hard it is, but I will tell you that I have seen some parachutes that I didn't think stood a chance be the best parachute of the whole group. So really, let them do their thing, maybe design next to them and then do a comparison. But as hard as it's going to be, try to let them do their own thing and then really test them side by side. Okay? All right. And then finally, after you've designed it, you need a place to test it. Now, it helps if it's a high spot so that the parachute has some room to open up and really catch the air. So if maybe you had a swing set, that would be a fun place to try it from. But if you're going to be someplace high, you really need to go talk to your grown-up before you start any testing so that they can make sure they're watching you and you're safe. So you could do it from maybe the top of a swing set. You could do it from maybe the top of your stairs if a grown-up was watching, or if you have a balcony somewhere on your house, or maybe if a grown-up was holding on to you, you could throw it from a window and watch what happens. In my classroom, I just let you stand on the table while we hold hands, and I let you drop it from the top of the table. You could even try that, but you're going to need to be up a little bit higher. So this part of the experiment, you really need to make sure that you talk to your grown-up and that they're there to help you. So have a lot of fun designing your parachutes and testing them out. I'm excited to hear how it goes. Until I see you next time, be well, and I'll see you soon. Bye-bye.